saying a bottle of water and a cantaloupe is going to solve your depression? No. But...
An apple and a margarita?
Yeah, an apple and a margarita. That actually might.
Welcome to another edition of the Naughty Podcast. I am your host, Elle Harlow, and with me as always is...
Tiana Sage.
Today we are going to talk about the advice we would give our younger selves. We're going to cover the gamut: mental health, body image, relationships, things that you should and should not stand for. We're going to hit it all today.
My parents don't believe in mental health problems, and it's taking a toll on me. I'm 21, and I'm on the brink of shattering mentally and physically. I work in retail 12 hours a day on my feet with no rest, besides for lunch, and shitty rude customers every single day, and horrible toxic coworkers. Every day feels like a nightmare to me, but I can't quit my job until I find something else, which is quite difficult. It is difficult, as there are very little jobs right now. All of that on top of everything else that's going on in my life, aside from work, is taking a huge toll on my mental health, and I'm on the verge of breaking down, but my parents don't believe in mental issues at all. They always make an excuse such as, just do your prayers to God, it will cure you. Sorry, I had to Google. And you're not eating enough proteins. If I even try going on medication or to see a therapist, even the slightest hint of them finding out. If I even try going on medication or see a therapist, even the slightest hint of them finding out I do any of those things, I'm probably gonna get a huge backlash from both of them about how my mental medication and therapy are a hoax. And they're scams, and I should be ashamed of myself about trying these. I'm not sure what else to do anymore. I can't quit until I find a better job, and I can't relax. What does that say? I'm so sorry. Mine's so bad. Can I switch with you? Mine's gone.
There's the printer one.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I'm not sure what else to do anymore. I can't quit till I find a better job, and I can't relax because of said job.
Okay, so you know what is not going to fix mental health, cancer, poverty, war, is praying. None of those things are going to be solved by praying.
Unless you yourself believe it, you know what I mean? If you're told to pray and you don't have that, like, I'm not a religious person, but one of my friends is very religious, and when she prays, it helps her feel better.
Mm-hmm.
However, you know, that's because she wants to do it voluntarily, and she feels like that's helping, not because she's told to do it, you know?
Right. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that a Band-Aid situation, like saying a prayer, is still not going to cure something like depression.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. It's like if people use it as like their therapy to get things off their chest, sure, but is it gonna cure everything? No, but some people use it, you know, to help them. Just doesn't seem like she wants to, which is totally valid.
Totally valid.
And it seems like her parents are pushing that on her, and it doesn't seem like she has the want to do that, you know, so... Yeah.
So I'm assuming they post the OP. It lives at home, and I get it. It's fucking tough out there. But like, perhaps there are maybe a counselor available in your institution of faith that you could see. There is no shame in taking meds for your mental health. As someone who has taken many over the years. And it sucks. It really sucks. Like when I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, everyone in my family was like, well, that's not forever, right? Like, you'll get better. And I'm like...
I know, that's something that...
Oh, no.
You're born with. Yeah.
I'm born with it. I'm going to die with it. I'm probably going to die from it. But, like, you know.
Yeah.
So I get what it's like to not have a, like, supporting, like, family.
Yeah.
And they are, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt that they are doing what they think is best by you.
Yeah.
But please... You know what? I don't like seek out the health professional.
But the thing is that it seems like they're trying. It's just they get flack from their parents for it. So I think that like if I were to give advice to this person, it would be to, you know, not give up on trying to find help for yourself and just try to keep going until you're able to get out of that situation where your parents are so close. Because some parents like are very old-fashioned. And they don't understand the need for therapy. They don't understand the need for certain medications. So that's not something like you can try and train them to be understanding, but it's difficult, and especially if they're And not to be anti-religion, because I'm not. But sometimes I feel like parents that are so strong with their faith think that that's a be-all, end-all. When in reality, if you have stuff going on that's beyond that, it doesn't necessarily, it doesn't cure you. They're in such a difficult situation because they are very stuck, and the best thing is finding a way to move out to be on their own.
Yeah.
And it's
Big
difficult because like rent is crazy expensive, unless you're forced to. Like I was when I was 19, and I've never lived with my parents ever since. I'm 23, and even my relationship with my parents has blossomed and gotten so much better from not being at home, because you have like that degree of separation, right?
Yeah.
And it's difficult. You can just tell this person to like, oh, move out,
Yeah, that's harsh me, like, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get everything is super expensive, so I don't want to just like off the hop be like, move out.
Mm-hmm.
Because
But-
like I would love
Yeah.
to live by myself, and I make good money, but I live in Toronto. I'll never live by myself.
But the thing is, too, you don't live with your parents, though. You live with other roommates, which is not the same as living with a parent that's trying to tell you how to live your life.
Fair.
Like, sure, you're not on your own, but even living with roommates is a better situation than being with your parents. So the best thing to advise this person is to essentially just try and grin and bear it until you're able to either find that better job. Don't stop looking for a better job. When you're financially able to even split it with a friend, like go find somewhere to move.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like they can't change their parents' ideas of how bad therapy and medications are. And you're gonna, kill yourself trying to. Sometimes you just have to accept that they might not be
100%.
accepting of it, which sucks.
Yeah.
You have to go through that. You have to go through that pain
That's
and
awful.
accept it. It is awful. It's brutal. But overall, like, you're gonna drive yourself nuts trying to balance all of that. Just do your best to try and get yourself out of that situation.
Just keep treading water, man. Like, keep that head above water, whatever you can. And like the very slim chance that OP ever runs across our podcast, listen, there are tons of like remote therapy options, BetterHelp.
Fuck
whatever.
BetterHelp.
I mean, I've had friends who have had really great success on it.
I had terrible help on BetterHelp, but I wasn't going on for basic depression and talking to someone. I have clinical, CPTSD, BPD, and autism. I was set up with a teacher that was coming off of her shift with dealing with elementary kids, and she was telling me to just girl boss it out.
Yeah.
Well, I can't do that.
No.
So it's not meant for people that have
Complex
situations.
compounded situations. But if you're just dealing with like some depression, some anxiety, you feel like you're
which is still
hurtling
bad.
towards a break, and I'm not minimizing that at all.
Yeah.
But it's a more straightforward.
Yeah. Someone to lean
issue.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, absolutely, God, call the kids' help phone. Like,
Oh, also fuck the kids' help phone. I'm sorry.
I mean, the kids' help phone helped me a lot when I was a kid.
No, they told my friend and I to go kill ourselves on the kids' help phone. They do not help. They sometimes can. They never helped us.
Wow. Okay, so I got really great help from the kids' help phone.
It's difficult. I think you get matched with a different person every
Yeah.
time on kids' help phone. So it's like such a 50-50 chance.
Yeah.
Again, though, it's complex situations that me and also my friend was in, where they just kind of, sometimes I feel like they're just normal people or whatever, counselors, and they're just like, yeah, okay, whatever, you know what I mean? And they just give up. But yeah, I think that, for this person, like, try and find someone to talk to, whether it is through BetterHelp, maybe they'll have better help than I did. And if you can take medication, if you're prescribed it, which if you're prescribed medication, then the doctor knows that you're going through this. So maybe they can even set you up with someone.
Even talking to your family doctor, like, don't suffer in silence. Don't suffer because your parents refuse to admit science exists.
And and you're 21. Like, you're a 3-year-old adult at this point, but you are an adult.
Yeah.
What are they gonna do?
Your parents do not need to know anything about your medical. Like, if you're American, like, HIPAA protects you. Your parents don't need to know. You can literally just buy one of those, like, day of the week pill containers.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like, your parents don't need to know what you're taking. You can lie and there's a vitamin.
Yeah. You know, you can take it when you're away from home. Having a 12-hour shift is frustrating too, but
Yes.
you know, invest in some good shoes to support your feet and keep looking for a better job.
And
Jobs are hard to find right now, though.
they are really hard to find right now. And like, I don't want to agree with your parents in any way, shape, or form, but make sure your diet is on top. Like, make sure you're eating enough, because I know when I get hungry, my patience.
Yeah, but that's a huge thing. I think a lot of people, because it's the parents saying that, they're like, oh, well, they're just diminishing how I feel. No. They
Diet
may be,
is important to mental
true.
health.
They may be diminishing other things like the medication, but the diet part is actually true.
It
Because
is.
if you drink the amount of water that you're supposed to drink a day, if you eat the amount of vegetables and fruit that you're supposed to eat a day, you will feel a little bit at least better. You won't feel as bad as you were before.
Yeah, you won't have that contributing to the other mental weights that you're already carrying.
Like, am I saying a bottle of water and a cantaloupe is going to solve your depression? No. But
An apple and a margarita.
yeah, an apple and margarita. That actually might. But essentially, it'll help a little fucking bit. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not providing your body with the nutrients that it needs to have a properly functioning brain, why are you expecting it to have a properly functioning brain?
Yeah, if you don't put gas in the car can't run.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah,
like,
so making sure that you are eating, I'm not going to say like eat a well-balanced meal, but like make sure you're feeding your tank.
At least
because
water.
it's going to help. It's going to help.
Yeah. Water, and you know, fill your stomach with something, and then you might notice a little bit of a mood change.
Yeah.
You might still, you know, feel mentally not the best, but at least in that moment, like, you'll have the body support at least.
Yeah.
You know, so that's
it'll
one thing.
it'll be one thing less on your plate. Like, I myself with my bipolar, when I go into like a depressive episode, I'm like, I just want to eat all of the bad things. Like,
Well, that's me every day.
I mean, same. But like on a normal brain day, if I'm up here, I can be like, I am going to eat a vegetable and a protein and a starch to make me smile.
And your body thanks you for it.
And my body thanks me for it. When I'm in a depressive episode, all I want is like chips and popcorn.
Yeah.
And like,
you want like the things that make you feel good, that give you the serotonin, right?
Exactly.
So,
and then when I start coming out of it, I'm like, I just want all the fresh vegetables. I want all the fresh fruit. Like,
your body's like, oh fuck, we need to make up for this other, you know, shit that we're missing. Also too, like, if you're craving sweet things, it's usually your body needing fruit of some sort too, right? So stuff like that, salty, or craving meat. So it's just like a sub thing. But something I wanted to talk to you about and get your opinion on, because I have a very strong opinion on this, and I think it's dependent on the situation as well, is medication. I didn't have a good history with medication. My situation was a little different, was because it didn't help my mood, it made me numb. And this is the thing, people think that when they go on meds for depression, that all of a sudden everything is going to be sunshine, rainbows, cherries on top. It's not.
No.
You are numbed. You are now taken from going down low to just here all the time, especially if you're set up with Seroquel, if you're set up with any of that stuff. Yeah, sure, it helps you sleep, but you're a zombie. At least, you know, that was my experience, and that in talking to other people who have been on that medication that I was like in the waiting room with kind of said the same thing, right? These things aren't a cure-all. That's why they pair it with therapy. That's why they pair it with other
100%.
things. Because if you're just like, oh, I'm sad, okay, I'm gonna take a pill.
Yeah.
It's not going to do what you think it's going to do.
The pill takes you off the ledge.
Yeah, kind of. But some of them come with suicidal ideation. So it's like they kind of do, but they kind of don't.
The hard thing is with mental health in particular, and this is something that my own like psychiatrist said to me, is that when you look at someone like for a physical health thing, like, you know, you look at an x-ray and be like, well, that leg is broken, it needs to be set. With mental health, there isn't like a you know, an itemized, like, I can look at this picture and see all of the things wrong with you.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of it is guessing games.
Yeah.
And so they're going by like percentage of people who reported these symptoms were helped by this medication. So they're starting at the top, the biggest one, and working their way down. When I was diagnosed with bipolar, I at that point had been working with my family doctor for a really long time and was complaining about all of these things that unless you know what you're looking for, would not necessarily be like, well, that's a mental health thing.
Yeah.
I was like, my whole body hurts. And he was like, well, I'm going to give you this pill. And I'm like, and you know, I can't sleep. And so he gives me this pill. And he's like, well, now I can't wake up. So he's giving me this pill. So
Yeah.
I'm like taking like 10 pills a day.
Yeah, and they do that. They do a cocktail. Like,
Yeah.
I was on lithium at 14 years old.
I was on lithium at like 40, and I was like, this is a lot.
Yeah, I was in the mental health hospital about 7 times from the age of 14 to 17. They could have just honestly put my name on the door at that point, but I was.
I don't mean to laugh.
No, I mean, it's kind of funny. It is funny, you know. Like, I knew everyone.
It's like the Tiana room.
Like, yeah, literally. This is where we keep our Tiana. We feed her and let her out for an hour every day. But anyways.
No shoelaces, though.
Yeah, no shoelaces, no nothing. I actually kind of liked it. It was fun. But, you know, the reason why I was there was not fun. But anyways, I was on, and I made a TikTok about the amount of meds, but that was half of them. That wasn't even all of them because I took the rest of the rest of them. I was on every single medication. They diagnosed me with literally everything known to man: bipolar, borderline personality disorder, anxiety, depression, OCD, CPTSD, all of this stuff, because they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Meds weren't helping my mood changes and I say temper tantrums, but they're not like what you think. They weren't, you know what I mean? Anyways, it's hard to explain. I was literally collapsing in the dining room at the mental health hospital because of the amount of meds that they put on me, because they couldn't figure out what it was. You know, I stopped taking my meds because I was actually, the last one that I was on for was a med that was for brain damage, because they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And they gave me really heavy brain zaps, and it was really bad. And I stopped taking it, and then they were like, oh, you just have autism. So after...
I don't mean to laugh.
No, it's funny. It's hilarious. Like, I was going through the rapid mood swings. I couldn't, you know, I was going through the overstimulation. You know, I was exhibiting all of these signs of female autism. I had that ADHD factor. They were like, oh, you just have an attention thing. Like, no, it's more than that.
Yeah.
And I knew it wasn't BPD because when I sat in that group therapy with all the other BPD people, I wasn't like everyone else.
Right.
It was so different.
Yeah.
You know, so it took, like...
There's definitely a lot of sexism within the medical community. Like that's not, like, that's provable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we went 40 years with only diagnosing basically boys, and the very odd, like, small sliver of women who exhibited the same symptoms as the boys, because girls with ADHD exhibit different symptoms.
Yeah.
And all of the research was done on boys.
Yeah.
You know, and it's same with that, like aspirin therapy.
Yeah.
Like,
same with how they test medication on male rats instead of female rats, so the hormone difference is fucked up.
Yeah, like there's a huge amount of sexism within the medical community that we don't have time to get into here. And like the other thing with you is that you were so young.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's a lot of the things that you listed, traditionally speaking, don't manifest in someone so young.
Mm-hmm.
Like bipolar disorder manifests in like your late teens.
Yeah.
You know, and it's because of when the brain is developing,
Mm-hmm.
yada yada. You know, BPD, that comes from like exposed like trauma, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So like, yes, that could be a younger one, but like, you know, schizophrenia, like a lot of these don't.
And I suffered from hallucinations, both audio and visual. So they're like, I have no idea. And I was in therapy since I was 4 years old. You know, they had no idea.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, you know?
Yeah, and like
It's kinda
you look at, you know, had we been born 100 years earlier.
Oh, I would have had a lobotomy.
Yeah.
Which I think that would be great.
I mean, apparently, like I've done well, they call it, what do they call it now? Electroconvulsive therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So like I've done shock therapy because it's really good for bipolar disorder.
Have you tried ketamine therapy?
I've not, because I'm in a really stable place right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm not gonna fuck with it. I haven't had a manic nor depressive episode in quite some time.
That's good.
So I'm just gonna keep on keeping on.
I was always curious about it because people say that's really intense, but it does help you in the long run. That's a one medication that I haven't tried.
Yeah, I do have a couple of friends who've done ketamine therapy, and they have great things to say for it. Like, they're like, it is the reason why I'm still on this plane of existence, as opposed to we're standing over a grave right now.
Yeah.
I'm just like raw dog in life right now. I'm not on anything, but through therapy, I was able to, you know, come to a stable place where I feel like I don't need it. And maybe that's my media talking, or I'm just in a really good place right now.
Yeah.
And I know, and my partners know, and my friends know how to recognize if I'm.
Yeah, and then you have your coping strategies.
Yeah.
I hate coping strategies. The amount of, if I had $1 for every time I heard coping strategies within my entire life,
I would be so rich.
I'd be able to own a house, maybe 2 at this point.
I feel like I would just be like Carmen Sandiegoing it across the world. Like, I would just be like,
I hate it. Because it's difficult when you have something that controls your mood that you cannot color breathe through. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing, is like, yeah, sure, like that's great and all, but like for the most part, like I can't ground myself when I'm having a moment, you know? I just gotta let me have it.
As someone who has experienced mental health issues for so long of your life, like what is a piece of advice you would give your younger self in regards to your mental health?
That's a good question. I think it's difficult because I started off really young with getting help mentally. I wish that, you know, like I was in therapy for a different reason when I was a kid, but when I started to have like actual like mental health problems, I think I did wait a year too late. I probably could have started when I was 13, and maybe they would have taken me a little bit more seriously. But I held a lot of guilt. And I think that's something that I would tell myself, you know, now looking back to like, and I do a lot of inner child work, and it's very good for you. Doing inner child work is very, very, very good for you. But I look at my younger self and be like, listen, you have to let go of that guilt, because I felt bad because I was making my mom drive to the hospital every day, and that parking lot sucked. And I made my mom and dad wait in the ER for 8 fucking hours while I was waiting to be admitted 7 different times. Like I had so much guilt that I think that it made it so much worse, you know? So I never really focused on actually getting better. I just wanted it all to stop. So I would tell my younger self that, you know, it's, and like not to be cheesy, but like it isn't your fault. You know, you need to get this help. It's not going to just end. It's not because you're a teenager. It's not because you're a preteen. You don't have to feel guilty. Your parents are here to support you for a reason. And that's what I would tell myself, is just to let go of, you know, the pressures of making sure everyone else is okay.
Right.
Stop people pleasing.
Right. Oh, that's a big one.
And focus on yourself.
Yeah. I was definitely like a people pleaser, like in, I don't want to say high school, like we'll call it like junior high. And like eventually got to the point where I like had like a break, and I was like, fuck everything about this.
Yeah.
And I at the age of like 16 was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm not like actively hurting someone, as long as my actions are actively causing someone else like distress, I don't fucking care. And once I got to that point, I was like, oh.
You need to have that though. I feel like when you realize that you're people pleasing too much, a lot of people go through that where they're like people please, and they reach that point. Is that tipping point where it's like, fuck this, and then you start living for yourself. And a lot of people, it's funny how a lot of people need to reach that point to validate. You know, a lot of people call it their villain era.
Yes.
And it's like the villain era is just not people pleasing anymore.
Yeah, I've been in my villain era since the 90s.
Yeah, it's just funny, and I'm the person that did the same thing, where I was like, I'm in my villain era, and it's like doing things that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think, have the same kind of mentality with that.
Yeah, like I'm not actively going out there to like hurt people's feelings. In fact, my best friend and I had this conversation today. Because we don't like anybody.
Yeah.
Like we are curmudgeons. We love each other very much, and like I would do anything for this woman, and she's like, bitch, I need a kidney, and I'd be like, left or right.
Yep.
And I've started seeing a new gentleman, and she's gonna meet him this weekend. And I was like, you know, we were trying to figure out the dynamics of it, so it's gonna be like a group thing. And I immediately messaged her, and I was like, listen, I was nice to so-and-so. I was nice to so-and-so. I've been nice to all of your freak friends, like, all weekend long. So you have to do me a solid now. We have to, like, mentally put down that, like, we're being nice to these people. Like,
right.
Because left to our own devices, I'm just like, I don't fucking care. Which a lot of people take as an attack.
I think it depends. I think it depends on what you do and what you say.
It's more of a I'm not saying anything to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a disregard because they don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be like, hey, how are you? But then I don't go out of my way to like include them in every conversation that's happening around them because
Right.
include yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not here to be a stepping stone for you in the entirety of this party tonight
Yeah.
or the entirety of this interaction. Include yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like we have to remind ourselves that we have to be nice to people.
That's hilarious.
And we have to be a little softer and a little kinder because
Yeah.
we're just not.
Yeah.
We're just not.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give your younger self about being plus size as an adult?
Oh, the value that society places on you is not the same as the value you should place on yourself.
Yeah.
Just because people are shitty about it doesn't mean you are not worthy.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a lot of time, like when I was not the freshman 15 when I went to university, I was the freshman 50
Mm-hmm.
because I went into recovery for my eating disorder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just as I started university.
Yeah.
And so all of the things that I was doing to hurt myself, which a lot of people applauded because I was so active and I was so into sports and I was so healthy.
Yeah.
Which is
That
a
happens.
whole other fucked up thing.
Yeah.
All of those things stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to eating a regular diet.
Mm-hmm.
And I
3
gained
meals a day.
3 meals a day.
Yep.
Normal
Yep.
food. Like I wasn't ordering pizza 7 nights a week. I was
Mhm.
literally eating in the cafeteria that was like dietitian planned and I gained
Mhm.
50 pounds.
Yeah.
So just because you take up a little more space does not mean you are worth less.
I like that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. It's hard. It's a hard one. And especially now with like everything like social media, like I feel like if I had been your age in the age of social media that I'm in now, I might not be here. I might not have been
It
strong
was
enough.
worse back then, though. Now it's not that bad.
But social media didn't exist back then. When I was your age, social media wasn't a thing.
See, the reason why I disagree is because eating disorder Tumblr was rampant, and I know you weren't a part of that because you're too old, but it was rampant.
Okay, but
But
I'm talking when I was your age.
Fair, but what I'm saying is that, like, you know, my age even, we have a lot of people that appreciate a larger body nowadays.
Yes.
We have a naughty company that's their whole thing.
Yeah.
We have, you know, Kim Kardashian, which I know you don't like, and Nicki Minaj that did, sure, whatever, surgically alter the bodies. Megan Thee Stallion didn't, and look at her. She has a big ass, big thighs, right?
100%.
And back in the day, you know, in the early 2000s, there was, you know, that American model show run by whatever the fuck her name was, the skinny.
Oh, Tyra Banks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was brutal to women.
Yeah.
Like my mom, like
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like if social media had been as prevalent when I was 23 years old.
Sure.
Like if I was 23 years old, like in 2003, reading the comments that people like to leave us on our YouTube.
Like if it was like now, but back then.
Exactly.
Sure, I can agree with that. Yeah. Fair. I can agree with that. Like if it was the same back then, but it still was really bad back then.
It was really bad back then.
Yeah.
Like there's the whole like this isn't quite as old, but like when Britney Spears came back after her like meltdown.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
did the like it's Britney bitch.
Yeah.
And like so like we all have preferences and like I date women too and I like a very specific body type when I'm dating women. I will admit it. I like them curvy. I like them voluptuous. What the fuck was that? Okay.
That was loud.
I like them thicker than a Snicker. And I remember seeing her in that video
Mm-hmm.
and I was just like, too skinny.
Yeah.
And the media was like chewing her up and spitting her out about
That's
how
what I
fat
mean.
she was.
And
I
that was
just
like back in like early Y2K, right?
That was like, well, that would have been 2008 or 9.
Yeah, so early Y2K.
No,
Yeah.
early Y2K is 2000.
Fair. But like for me, you know what I mean? Like I was 8 years old.
Yeah,
like
you were just cognizant of the world
Yeah,
around you.
exactly.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so like I remember people like calling her fat, making diabetes jokes,
Mhm.
yada yada yada, and I'm like, too skinny.
Yeah.
Skinny.
Yeah.
I liked
Yeah.
her when she was a little thicker.
Yeah.
Like when she did, I don't know, the red
I
jumpsuit.
don't even think she ever was thick ever at all.
In the red jumpsuit.
She was just a normal, like, or I hate saying normal. She wasn't like, there's no normal, but like she was just
Average.
a body. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like she was just average.
I just remember like her in the, I don't even know what the song is.
Oh, she was 18 years old in that music video.
But I also actually found out recently that she was padded.
Yeah.
In
Well,
that
obviously.
bodysuit. I didn't know that, but
Yeah.
I was just like, dang,
Yeah.
that's a thick
Yeah.
girl.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
That happens a lot in that.
And I don't know, how old was I when that came out? 23, 24,
Yeah.
I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, I
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, so like, you know, I remember looking at her in this, they like making comments like they shoehorned her into this bedazzled bikini, and I was like, she's literally straight up and down. Like there's nothing to her.
Yeah.
Like her, the only thing I would have ever read her on for that comeback was her bad extensions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone had those back then.
Yeah,
Everyone.
I
Yeah,
didn't.
That's fair. But you're a hairstylist, so.
But I'm a hairstylist. I just had wigs.
Yeah, exactly. Which, you know, is becoming more popular now, but it should have been popular back then. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like back then it was, at least from my experience, way more brutal. And there was more, not that there aren't as many eating disorders rampant now, because there are. But back
100%.
then, it was glorified. It was insanely so. And it still kind of is now, but it's on its way out at least a little fucking bit more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Then back then it was brutal.
What advice would you give to younger girls who are struggling with body image?
I have a bad answer because it's like it probably is difficult to relate to, but it really is just that your body is your body. Like, what are you supposed to do? You are a human. We are on a floating rock in the middle of a vast, vast space. We are not, you know, the most important beings out there. We are made from stardust and grass and dirt and air and clouds. And I probably sound insane, but it's like,
But you're not wrong.
you know what I mean? Like, when it all comes down to it, like, you are a meat sack holding 20 yards of intestines and a good set of bones. Like,
Sometimes.
and the thing is too is that like if you're dealing with other people, let's say like you're like a woman, like a young woman dealing with body image, and you're dealing in a bad way because you have boys making comments. When you reach a certain age, they will eat that shit up. They will eat it up. There might be some that don't, but you know, whatever, right? You'll come across so many people that value you for who you are, not for what you look like, that it won't really mean anything anymore.
For myself, like my whole high school, I was like gripped with a eating disorder to the point where like, if my mom sees this, she's gonna be like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Because I hid it so well.
Mm-hmm.
I hid it so well.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, like I said, I went away to university that and I said I went into recovery, and it was because all of my I don't know what to call them, all of my rituals
Mm-hmm.
were just like ripped away. So I didn't have the ability to like overeat at dinner and then like throw up later because I was only given like this one plate of food.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I didn't live close enough to a place where I could just go and get junk food. And like I don't want to get into the exact mechanisms of my eating disorder because it might be triggering for others, but like I worked out a lot. I ate like a normal person, and then I would wait 20 minutes and I would binge and I would purge.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't able to do all of those things living in like communal housing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was living in a dorm.
Mm-hmm.
So all of my like carefully constructed eating disorder
Your routine is thrown
routines was thrown off. So I was like slammed into recovery whether I wanted to or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back at myself in high school, and in high school I thought I was so fat
Mm-hmm.
because I'm big boned. I was thick. I even had
Also, body dysmorphia is a bitch too.
Yeah.
Totally. I don't think people realize it's not just like your idea of how you look; it's how you see yourself.
Yeah.
It messes with your perception.
Yeah. Now I have like opposite body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
I just think I look really good, and people on the internet tell me I
Mhm.
don't. But like, I remember going to school, and I my grandmother had bought me a pair of knee-high Doc Martens. And I was literally, like, it was this. I was so skinny. And the Docs wouldn't close over my legs because of how thick my legs were.
Yeah.
And that, like, destroyed me.
Yeah.
And that was, like, my jumping off point. That was, like, the impetus to my eating disorder. And I got made fun of every day for being fat.
Interesting.
And then I, like, bid a big adieu to my hometown. Literally wrote my last exam on a Thursday, moved on a Sunday. Like, was fucking out of there. And then once, like, Facebook became a thing, every single dude who bullied the ever-living shit out of me in high school were suddenly, like, slide into those DMs.
Well, yeah.
And I'd be like, I don't want to talk to you. And they'd be like,
Yeah.
why not? And I'm like, because you were fucking awful to me
Because
in high
you're
school.
brutal.
And they were like, oh, that can't be true. I always had the hots for you. And I was like, well, I'm pretty sure my trauma remembers exactly the things that you said.
But also they always say, like, and I hate this statement, but it's like men make fun of, the, like, they're like, oh, he's making fun of you.
boys will be boys.
Or not even that. It's like, oh, they're making fun of you because they like you. And I think that back then it was, you know, worse for it. But men were told that that's how, or boys were told that that's how boys express themselves. So then it just came out like that. And, you know.
I mean, I definitely remember one guy standing on top of a desk, like, making fun of me. And I was like,
Yeah.
does not make me want to
No, obviously it doesn't.
drop trow.
No, it doesn't fucking work. But like when we were told that, oh, that boy's making fun of you because he likes you, they're told the same goddamn thing, so that's all they do. And I'm not saying that is fine, obviously fucking not, but it's like, that's, you know, you see them like turn around and now they're messaging you and it's like, oh, well, you're just a douchebag.
One guy literally messaged me, like, weekly up until he got married, and then even a couple of times afterwards. And I was like, stop it.
Brutal.
Stop it.
Mm-mm.
What advice would you give to your younger self about dating and relationships?
So, actually, recently as in within the past like 78 hours, I had a conversation with myself, medicated, and I sat down because I've had trouble in relationships since I was, well, for a long time. Even though I'm only 23, for a long time.
I mean,
because
relationships start the minute you're born.
Yeah, you know, I guess that's fair. And I have a weird lore. Like, my backstory is interesting. So, anyways, I, a while ago as in like a couple years ago, learned what comp-het is. And it's compulsory heterosexuality.
Oh.
And it's huge. And a lot of people who are, and I can't speak for the male side of this because I don't know how that works, but I would
Right.
assume it's very similar. But
Well, because it starts when you're so young. Like, oh, do you have a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Like, who are you going to marry when you get older?
right, and like you see the pictures of the young boys, and they're like just standing next to a young girl, and they're like, "Oh, look, he's such a player," or
Right.
"Oh, look, she's gonna be a great housewife," because that's how it went.
Yeah.
But you know, it was everywhere, it's rampant, and it still is because
100%.
it's starting to not be slowly, but it's very out there where the societal norm is boy meets girl, boy marries girl, da 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 da. That's the end of it. And same thing for girl meets boy, girl marries boy, da 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 da. You know, but that is, you know, it affects queer youth, and I'm saying queer youth because it affects whatever sexuality you are. If you like the opposite sex, where you feel like it's compulsory and pressure, yeah, from whether it's societal norms, whether it's familial norms, whether it's even your own personal struggle with it, where you are supposed to find this sex, this gender attractive in some sort of way, and you're supposed to let them into your life like that. I have let my first partner, like real actual like dating, not some middle school, oh, we're married now, you know what I mean?
Right.
But even back then, like, was a female, was a girl, you know, and
Wow.
Since then, I've dated more girls than I've dated guys, and every time I've dated a guy, it felt wrong to some degree. It's felt, you know, like I needed to act this certain way. I had to be this certain person. I had to express myself in a way that this gender would, you know, appreciate, and it really takes up your whole mindset, and it ruined me for a long time. And you know, I had to mask in a lot of relationships. So
That sounds exhausting.
it was, but I didn't realize that it was, because I was going around and I'm like, oh, everyone's like this. everyone thinks of their man and gags a little bit, you know? It's like, oh no, that doesn't happen. Oh, everyone disassociates during sex. Like everyone, you know, like but that's the thing, when you don't have anyone to compare these relationships with, you know, it's difficult, right?
Right.
So, I really, really had a conversation with myself again, motherhood.
Hey, sometimes you need something to open the door.
You know, right? And just connect. And I realized I really was falling into that the compulsory heterosexuality side of things. And I know that whenever I'm with a woman, I'm so much happier. I'm so much more connected. I go out of my way to do more things for that person. I'm just generally more happy. So I'm like, why do I put myself in this situation to be with guys? And it's a long story, right? Like everyone's different. Some people use men as self-harm in a sense.
100%.
Some people use men as validation, you know, because the society we live in builds men to be such an important, like, like their opinion is so important. And it's always like that, you know, your dad when you're growing up, he always has the last say, depending on how you live, right?
Yeah.
My dad didn't.
My dad left.
My dad didn't, but I mean, you know what I mean? But so anyways, so yeah, I realized recently that, you know, the last guy that I dated, like actually was in a relationship with, which is still my, you know, my best friend and my ex, and I actually had this conversation with him a while ago, and he was like, yeah, I can see that, you know, and you know, he's probably going to be my last guy that I'm ever with, because I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? So that's, I think, you know, the advice that I'd give my younger self is like, stop putting yourself with people that you feel the need to be with versus
you want to be with.
Yeah, put yourself with someone that you can't be without. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Yeah, and I think that was a huge thing that I came to realization about.
So I grew up obviously at a very, very different time because I am geriatric. And there was like a whole trend in the late 90s, early 2000s to be bisexual. But we called it barsexual because most of these girls would just make out with their girlfriends at the bar to get free drinks.
Yeah.
So when I, coming up, was like, I definitely think I like girls. I was embarrassed to come out as bisexual because I didn't want people to think it was like an attention-seeking thing. So I was just like, I'm queer.
Yeah.
And I've said that since I was like 20, 19, something in there. Like, I think I came out to like a couple of high school friends, like in grade 12, so I was about 17. But I was like, I never like even acted on it until I was like in university. And then as you get older and there's more options opened to you and more, and as we explore more into the science and whatnot of relationships, there become more terms that you can like associate yourself with, which is why like what used to just be gay and lesbian is now like what the Gen Zers call the alphabet mafia.
Yeah.
I can't even say the whole thing.
Yeah.
LGBTQIA T2S.
And there's plus.
Yeah, there's so much of it. Like I don't know all of it.
Yeah.
But I remember like I was like, okay, well, so like I'm the B, but even that never really felt right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like many years later that I came to realize I'm bisexual, hetero-romantic. Like if I want to have like a lifelong like partnership, I know that's not going to be with a woman because I have the desire to be with a man in a romantic way, not necessarily a sexual way, but a romantic way.
Right. Yeah.
And I also came to the realization that like I don't have to put all of my relationship eggs in one basket. I can divvy those eggs out into many baskets. So I was like, I can be bisexual, hetero-romantic, and ethically non-monogamous.
Yeah.
And it's great. Like as you get older, you get all of this more like life experience. Like your journey is only gonna get so much better. A little more fucked up, but so much better.
Yeah. That's fair. And that's a good journey to go on too,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And that's why I think like I really like the word queer. I think that it has a history of being a derogative term, which I know. But I think, you know, nowadays using that word is such an umbrella term because there are so many different terms out there.
100%.
That's why I call myself queer for now, even though just because of my history. Like I know I've dated men in the past, and
No gold stars for us.
but it's also difficult too because I feel like, and this is actually a true fact, lesbians don't. Okay, this is a very general fact too, but the percentage of lesbians that don't like bisexual women or pansexual women is insane. I don't know the exact percentage, but I was actually talking to ex, but also we used to be friends, but now I don't really want to be friends with them because of this conversation. And if they watch this, I don't care. But they know lesbians that would date a woman, but they find out that they're bisexual, that they're pansexual, and they will not be into them. And that's insane to me. So I like saying the word queer because I don't want to classify as someone who likes men because I know that I really don't, but I know that I can't necessarily...
You like mans? Like your best friend?
Yeah.
You liked him enough that you dated him and then kept him around.
Yeah.
Right? So you like mans.
And honest to God, we barely slept together. We just really were like, we lived together and we supported each other in a trauma bond a little bit. But then, we
Trauma.
Yeah, literally. And now we call each other our gay best friends, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, to that degree. So it's difficult. I can't just come out and say like I'm a lesbian because other lesbians will be like, well, you dated men, you're not a lesbian. You know what I mean? That's happened to me.
Oh, I know. Like,
and you roll your eyes because it's frustrating.
it's frustrating.
So it's difficult. But after, I think it's so fucked up, but I feel like I need to prove it a little bit before I can say that. So for now, I say that I'm queer.
Yeah.
Because it's very popular out there. I switched my dating app to lesbian instead of bisexual, and the amount of women, or like the percentage of more women that I saw on my dating app was mind-boggling. Because they had it so that they would date only lesbians, not bisexual women.
Wow.
And it's insane. And it's
Well,
sad.
I do get it because there is the whole like unicorn hunter thing.
But usually that's not the bisexual person, it's the couple looking for the bisexual person.
But what'll happen is, and like maybe I'm just on a lot of dating apps. But anytime I see an account for like a bisexual woman, it's always like, you can tell it's written by the husband. And someone, like I was in a whole conversation today about how like you can't tell how a woman writes versus a man writes. And I'm like, you can.
Yeah.
And it's like you can automatically tell that the profile was written by the man in the relationship, and it's I would go on a limb and say like 70% of the bisexual women profiles I've seen, within the first couple of lines, you're like, oh, unicorn hunter.
Interesting. That's interesting. I haven't seen as many, but I don't know, maybe it's just a different area that I'm in. There's not a lot of gay people where I'm at. So I get like Peterborough and I get like, Whitby and stuff. I think around here it's more populated. Yeah. So it would make more sense that I don't see it just because of the population percentage.
The number of times I like matched with a woman and was like chit chat, and be like, so my husband and I, and I'm like, unmatched. Because like I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't.
You're not about that. I'm not either.
Don't get me wrong, like a threesome is a fun time.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be like put on the spot for it. Like if it happens organically, it happens organically.
But you're not looking for that on like a dating app either. That's not what you're here for. So
I'm ethically non-monogamous, which means I like to have more than one partner. I shouldn't say I like to. I'm capable of having more than one partner because I don't believe that you should be putting all of your relationship needs onto one person.
I can see where that would be a healthy thing. I, however, am very monogamous in a sense where I don't think it's seen as like putting your relationship needs on one person, but it's like having that one person that fills all of those relationship needs.
100%.
But you can still have friends that fill all the other cups. Like you can have multiple cups, but I want that one person to fill at least the romantic and sexual side of things, right? And if they don't, then it's not the right person for you. Yeah. But again, I have such a respect for polyamory, ethical non-monogamy, all of that stuff, because you have different needs and you can find different people to meet those needs. I'm just very clingy.
I mean, I can be.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm like a smitten kitten, I'm like, let's spend all of our time together until I lose interest.
Yeah,
and that's just my ADHD thinking. Like,
you need like consistent like stuff, or else it goes away.
It's awful.
I love that. Yeah.
But at least I know where I'm at. At least I know where I'm
Yeah.
at, and I can communicate that.
I like that. Well, my advice personally for myself would be to not date someone for what I think, like people that I think I should date because of societal norms, versus someone that actually makes me happy and fulfills and makes my little heart very happy. Because I dated for, societal pressures and other unnamed pressures, compet pressures, all of that stuff. And I think just going for someone that, actually makes me truly happy would be my advice.
That's lovely. That's so cute. Mine is not that cute. My advice to my younger self when it comes to like relationships is don't settle.
That's huge.
Like, I definitely had like self-esteem issues. I've talked about it. I had eating disorder issues. I had bullying issues. So I definitely had self-esteem issues as I moved into my early 20s. And I definitely dated and like lived with dudes who were so far under my caliber. Like, and I settled hard. And I was abused because of it. So I would just say don't settle. Like you are, and I don't care who I'm talking to, you are wonderful. You deserve the best, and do not settle for anything but the best. That's it. What advice would you give to younger girls struggling with their mental health?
I think don't feel guilty to ask for help, and don't feel bad, because I think a lot of girls feel bad for, putting burden on people.
Nobody wants to be a burden.
Right? And then they feel like if they talk about this to someone, they're burdening them. If they need help and ask for help, they're burdening them. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not. And if someone makes you feel that way, then
They're the wrong
fuck
person.
them. They're
Yeah.
the wrong person.
Yeah.
Seek out, if you feel like you need help, there's no shame in that.
No
Seek
shame.
out help.
Yeah.
Like if you're comfortable with talking to your parents, talk to your parents. If you're comfortable with talking to your school even, that was a huge thing. My guidance counselor was amazing. I'm very lucky for that. Not a lot of people have that. But if you do, they are also a really good source, because they can fast and streamline you to, getting help also. And this one's a very intense one, but if you feel like you need help now, go to the ER. Go to the ER. You can. You'll be there. You'll be monitored. And you might be there for a while, depending on where you live. I waited for about 6 to 8 hours. But you'll have people that understand. They'll care. They'll listen. You'll have people around to make sure you don't do anything stupid. And I say stupid with lighthearted, because I don't want to call the idea stupid, but it is, it's a stupid thing to do. Don't, so go. That's what I did. I got to a point where it was so bad, I had to go to the ER. And from there, they triage you. They figure out what the best next steps are. And that would be if it's something that you cannot handle, and that waiting for a couple weeks to talk to someone, or even just talking to a friend, can't help, that is available to you.
Yes, 100%. For myself, the best advice I could give anybody who was young, even young myself, about my mental health is, if they don't matter, what they say doesn't matter. So as someone who was a victim of like a pretty horrendous bullying, I internalized for a long time what was said to me. And looking back, and I'm like, they didn't matter. They weren't even a blip on my radar, yet I just spooned in what they said to me. And it's like, if they don't matter, it doesn't matter.
And what they say isn't reality. And it's not true.
It's like, your opinion can be that the moon is made of cream cheese. That doesn't change the facts, ma'am.
Doesn't change anything. They could be saying whatever, but it doesn't mean that it's real, and don't let it alter your reality.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. If they're not someone that you would have in your, marriage bridal party, but even then, like, you wouldn't have.
I would say, would you invite them to your house to eat? No. Their opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Even if they say anything negative to you in that kind of I almost said condensation. In that I don't know what word I'm trying to say. But anyways, if they say anything negative to you with that kind of energy, then they aren't worth your time to absorb any of that shit.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely not. And that's it. That's another episode of the Naughty Podcast. Today we talked about advice we would give our younger selves when it comes to mental health, body image, and relationships. I'm your host, Elle Harlow. You can follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Elle Harlow.
I am TNSH. You can follow me on TikTok and Instagram at TNSH.
And don't forget to follow Naughty Podcast now with full episodes coming out. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Naughty Podcast.
And you can listen to us talk forever now with the
Forever.
full ass episodes. Look at us go. We're adulting.
Adulting.